Hello, my friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family. Hope you guys are doing well.
Hi, you guys.
So, you guys remember the 7.4 earthquake that we had recently in Mexico? Well, there's so much new scientific news coming out. It's just exciting to keep up with and fascinating. So, the earthquake that we had, it literally moved Mexico. It displaced by 45 centimeters Mexico. That's pretty wild. I mean, thinking about the earth changes that can happen. And again, we've kind of been more along the track of what Velikovsky and Hapgood have, spoken of, that changes can come, they could come rapidly.
Absolutely. And here they are.
So this was on June 23rd. We had a 7.4, and it has displaced the territory of Mexico by 45 centimeters, or about 17.7 inches. Pretty wild stuff. And here we have an article out of RT today. Are the poles reversing? Well, we know there's a magnetic pole reversal underway, and it may just end up being an excursion where it doesn't take hold, which has happened more often than not in the relatively recent past, geologically speaking. And here's the big thing. A new study shows that Earth's magnetic field is 10 times more volatile than expected.
Which is really, really insane. I mean, what could happen in just a matter of not very much time?
Yeah, so it's really fascinating to see this. A study by researchers from the UK and US shows that Earth's magnetic field, which protects it from the sun's destructive solar flares, may change direction 10 times faster than previously thought. 10 times, right? That's a lot. It's a big difference. So again, if we're talking in terms of, millions of years, maybe it's not millions of years. Maybe it's only thousands of years that we have massive changes. And when we're looking at the geological record and all, it feels like there's been a concerted effort. It feels, we know. There's been a concerted effort to just bury so much of our history, to just keep from us the reality of the planet that we're living on. And most definitely, in my opinion, the reality of the other civilizations that have been here upon the earth. How many times do we get reset back to, the Stone Age, the Iron Age? How many times do we do this over? How many times does everything kind of get, rebooted?
Mm-hmm. And is this the beginnings of a little nudge that's going to really do a lot?
So the study shines light on the liquid iron flowing almost 2,000 miles below the Earth's surface and how it influences the movement of Earth's geomagnetic field. The Earth's molten metal outer core creates electric currents that charge the planet's magnetic field. And we do know the magnetosphere has been declining recently. The magnetic field is crucial to life on Earth, as not only does it help us with things like navigational systems, but also protects us from radiation from space. I do think, too, this is part of a bigger plan. And again, if we look at all the prophecies from everywhere, and, not just biblical sources, because we have prophecies from almost every single indigenous tribe or culture on the land as well, of these timelines and of what's going to happen. They all speak of the same things: massive, massive cataclysms, ultimately leading to a new enlightened age, a new era. And we know, as we have quoted many times, Robert Felix, he was perhaps way ahead of his time with his book, Not by Fire, but by Ice, because all our global warming eventually is going to lead to a global cooling of the planet and another ice age. It's just a byproduct of what happens when we have so many volcanoes going off. We have all this coming together, and really, one of the biggest keys is the decrease in the magnetosphere, because it allows not just the sun's energy to come in, because the sun's energy is quieter now than it normally is, being in a grand solar minimum, especially if we're in a grand solar minimum that is going to be the deepest one in hundreds, if not thousands of years. We, of course, also have this magnetic pole reversal underway, which is lowering the shields. So shields are coming down. What happens? Well, according to Robert Felix, it leads to great evolutionary leaps because the energy will change us. It will mutate the DNA. And of course, science is always so fearful of these mutations, automatically thinking, well, in a negative term, like cancer, increased cancer rates and people dying. I'm of the thought, and it's my feeling that there's a bigger plan underway. And that, this is part of what the universe or what God, source, prime creator, however you want to view it, has planned for a new heaven and a new earth and new life to evolve. We see in these times in the past that there are changes. We've seen so many different types of humanoid species upon the planet, and that's something to just, you could delve into that for the rest of your life and not uncover everything. There's been so many different humanoid species on this planet, some of which are in us right now in our DNA, such as Neanderthals and Denisovans and some of us. It's just fascinating to see because we will all be changed, just as First Corinthians says. And it's just fascinating that science is just, lending more and more credence to the rapid change now. And perhaps it's just that things can't be hidden anymore. As we know that such organizations like the Smithsonian have spent so much time and money to take all the artifacts that we get that point to an alternative history than the one that we've been sold, and just, bury them away somewhere. There's so much buried away in the Vatican vaults. There's so much buried in the sea, things that don't go along. So many bodies of giants that were found all throughout the American continent, and just dumped at sea or just, gotten rid of in one way or another, so that we won't know exactly what went on till we're in the times of the apocalypse, which we are now, the times of the great unveiling.
And to me, this is all about a program started, and it's waiting for information to be programmed, and giving the momentum behind it is an important time.
So this study published in Nature Communications details how researchers discovered that our understanding of the magnetic field is flawed. So much of the science that we have been sold is flawed and is, in my humble opinion, purposely flawed. Many different groups, such as Never a Straight Answer, trying to hide from us what's really going on, because it would perhaps cause people to behave in different ways than they want us to behave in. Perhaps it would empower us in some ways, and also perhaps in some ways it would get us demanding change. Like if we knew, if the majority of people knew what was coming and what's underway, because still there are people that are asleep in this world, and perhaps still the vast majority is asleep to what's going on. It would be ground changing, and we would just have a new paradigm, and perhaps that paradigm would cause them to lose their ability to control everything, as is the case. So the work involved combining computer simulations of field generation process with recently published reconstruction of time variations in the Earth's magnetic field spanning the last 100,000 years. And the work revealed a sharp change in the direction of the magnetic field around 39,000 years ago. The shift at 2.5 degrees per year was much faster than previous estimates. The shift was preceded by a global last champ excursion, a short reversal of the Earth's magnetic field, roughly 41,000 years ago. And scientifically, we could say, well, maybe this will be just a short excursion as well. It's possible. Although we do know that all the prophecies say that this is a big one, that this is a complete change where we're heading right now, and that we will have a brand new Earth, and that perhaps even some continents will be underwater and brand new continents will emerge with pristine land that will be cleansed from the destructive tendencies of this current era, age, and leadership that has so caused so much destruction upon the planet. So there have been many times in histories when the Earth's magnetic poles have reversed, and we know this because the magnetic makeup of certain ancient rocks would show metals with different polarizations. In general, we don't know much about the effects of such a flip, except that once it's completed, the needle on a compass will tell us that north is south and south is north. This is important as such rapid changes are associated with a local weakening of the magnetic field, meaning that the Earth is more vulnerable to radioactive elements from space during these times and locations. Most generally, however, over the past century, Earth's magnetic field has seen a 10% reduction in strength, with a particular weakness being spotted over the Atlantic Ocean between Africa and South America. That's the South Atlantic anomaly, which now we know there's a second area of that destabilization going on as well. So, everything that we've been taught, as we've been saying, has perhaps been skewed perhaps with a purpose again. And I'll give you the link for this one, basically going over the same material. The first is from Strange Sounds. The first was actually from Russia Today, and this one's from The Watchers. 10 times faster. Perhaps that's only a beginning point. And this one was talking about growing mountains or shifting ground. What's going on in the Earth's inner core? And again, the thought with crustal displacement, it's like if you took an orange and you cut all the white material and so that it moved freely on the surface. That's kind of like what the crust is. And at some point, that whole crust will shift to catch up with what's going on the inside. Again, as above, so below. And, science, for the most part, discredited that thought, except people like Hapgood and Velikovsky. But more and more people have, gone along and thought that this could be what happens, and it could explain a lot of the destruction that we see at certain intervals. And Cindy had never seen the movie 2012, which we watched the other night, just trying to catch her up on some of the, the big old ones that were around. I think that movie was from 2008 or 2009. Of course, it was a little bit silly in some ways, but, I guess a fun ride.
I love the graphics. It was a lot of fun.
Kind of cheesy about the guy. For instance, the guy only had like 2 plane lessons. Next thing you know, he's dodging buildings and mountains, and sure. Now, we're seeing signs of unusual activity everywhere. So you see major non-Tolucent cloud outbreak over Europe. These are appearing very, very low. They're appearing in areas that they don't usually appear in. And this is over northern Germany. That's in Saxon Germany there. Lithuania, Slovenia. There's signs. And of course, not just the Bible, but others talk about signs in the skies. You'll know when the timing is happening. Perhaps these are some of those signs.
Which are beautiful signs. I like those.
And how about we add a comet Neowise with these clouds, and that's in France. So right now, Comet Neowise, you're able to see it in the very early morning. That's going to shift. It's going to get brighter. And we will be able to see it more in the evening as well in certain locations. And again, I'll have all the links for you guys.
Very, very beautiful. Stunning, stunning stuff.
And, again, comets are another thing that is a quote-unquote sign. And we certainly have a lot of comets. So we will keep an eye on Neowise. And another thing is the lightning. It's beautiful. Look at those colors. Amazing. 313,000 strikes over Western Australia's southwest. So we're seeing an increase in lightning, in plasma. The life force itself, as you see, it looks like that's a strike right there. That was in Perth.
Wow.
Amazing. Look at it. It's just gorgeous. Could be deadly, but gorgeous. Look at these pictures. So we're seeing all sorts of signs. It's pretty obvious we are going into, and we are into, a period of incredible change on this planet. And unfortunately, you see fatal lightning strikes plaguing India claim over 147 lives in 10 days. And the situation is expected to worsen as well. Farmers, obviously, we've had tremendous loss of livestock through hail, lightning, flooding, crop loss. It's all adding up. And don't forget about Three Gorges Dam. As you see here, China's huge Three Gorges Dam is now displaced. Fears the dam may burst. There's 400 million people at risk, as well as a lot of locations where, well, we're talking, Wuhan, and we're talking areas where, again, they had these labs that have those nasty biological agents in them. So, again, we're sending our prayers that way, because that would not be a good thing to see this thing let go.
Well, in the movie, there was the China Dam broke.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? In the 2012 movie, there is that mention of the Chinese dam breaking.
Very, very interesting stuff.
Yeah, Cindy caught that right away, and I didn't remember it from the movie. And here we see thick smoke of wildfires raging in Siberia travels 5,000 miles into the Pacific Northwest skies. So the Siberian wildfires and the 100-degree temperatures that we've seen up in the Arctic Circle in Siberia. Then we have the Saharan dust that came over from Africa, totally engulfing the southeast and the east coast. Intense times. Massive change going on. And heat, not your typical July heat, but substantially above normal heat in many parts of the lower 48 that's lasting a long time. So be aware of that as we see, whoops, where did it go? Well, I got things out of order there, but let's see over here. There you go. So you see some of the records that might be coming down, such as Roswell, New Mexico, San Angelo, Texas, Del Rio, Texas, Buffalo, New York, and Burlington, Vermont. I know we're expecting basically anywhere from 105 to 113 pretty much every day. Dozens of streets, I-110 flooded in Baton Rouge during a deluge, all over. And states are preparing to spend millions to address the flooding, which is, this is Orange, Texas, for instance. Flooding is a common issue now in these times. Severe storms, flash flooding in the east, gusty winds set to fuel wildfires in the west. And right now we have nearly 50 wildfires that are burning in the U.S. from Minnesota to California. Some of the worst right now, the Soledad fire in North Los Angeles, currently at 1,100 acres in size, 0% contained. They've evacuated 200 to 300 people. You have the Cruz fire, south of San Francisco Bay Area, burned 1,000 acres of land, 0% contained. Gusty winds up to 40 miles an hour moving into the western U.S. from Northern California all the way to Wyoming. And you got a lot of red flag warnings going on as well. And, we are used to very gusty winds that you get out in the desert. And we have 14 inches of summer snow. This is in southern Norway. Pull out those winter tires again. And then at the same time, these are all hippos. Usually there's tons of water for them. And unfortunately, there's just a little bit of mud right now. So again, some areas are getting impacted with massive, dangerous drought levels as well.
Yeah, let's send some intention for water that way.
And just what we need, we have a rare brain-eating amoeba case in Hillsborough County, Florida. This is okay. That just made Cindy almost lose her. Well, she hasn't had breakfast yet. So, yeah, that's not a very cute little guy there.
No, it's ugly.
Naegleria fowleri. It looks kind of like a clown face or something, but that is actually the microorganism. So be aware if you're in Hillsborough County, Florida. And, we've seen more of those cases. We saw a ton of cases last 2 years of flesh-eating disease. It just seems like, everything is kind of hitting us at once. So not that we wish anybody to be homeless, and not even this being basically geared towards the homeless, but 13 survival tips from the homeless. And just think about how many people have been forced to become homeless because their homes have been, hit with floods, hit with tornadoes, hit with hurricanes, hit with wildfires. This is part of the world that we're living in. At any one moment, we might become more and more nomadic and have to just leave a region, leave an area for any type of reason. It could be anything going on right now. So, some of this is basic stuff, but maybe some that you wouldn't think of. Again, dressing in layers, especially if you're somewhere like the desert, you could have a, high temperature of 100, but it might be 55 overnight. And, the next day it might be 115 and still touch the 60s overnight. And of course, so many other areas, like look at the variance you get in the upper plains, like in the Dakotas and Montana, and just you could have huge temperature swings. So dressing in layers, great idea. Always really use newspapers, as you will find them using them for warmth as well. Use water bottles. Now, our brother David over in the UK, he actually fills up water. Well, he has water bottles in his greenhouse. So the sunlight warms up the water, and then overnight, when there's no sunlight, the water is emanating heat, and it's keeping the plants even a little bit warmer. Same thing could be done for people. Sleep near other homeless people. So again, body heat. And also when you can develop relationships with people that you could trust. And again, this is not necessarily for the homeless, but think about all the refugees around the world. I mean, in war too, there's refugees all over the world. Japan just had insane flooding right now. So there are so many people over there that are now homeless, or, basically refugees. Be ready to leave. And that's a good thing for all of us right now at any time. We don't know what's coming next, as many people have bug out bags, which right below that, pack wisely. Be ready to leave at a moment's notice, just because, who knows what tomorrow is going to bring, whether it's earthquake, hurricane, war, anything. And obviously, we have the pestilence upon the land as well. That's still ongoing. Don't fight anyone when it seems like there's so much division and conflict. It's good to stay above the fray. Consider man's best friend, of course. Wouldn't go anywhere without Zeke or Sassy. Carry first aid supplies. Blend in with the crowd. Don't stick out. There was a survivalist that was talking yesterday. He was ex-military. And he was just basically saying that he doesn't dress in camo because that makes him stick out to either be a paramilitary person or somebody people will know is probably, or just think is probably either a hunter or, ex-military. Instead, he'll dress in those colors, but not with the obvious camo, trying to blend in, with the crowd, not trying to stick out. So there's a term, gray man or gray woman, someone that can just blend into the crowd and not be noticed. You don't want to draw attention in these times, especially, if there's something where, we have so much of this insurrection and rioting and looting that's going on all over the place. Use baking soda. Baking soda is really overlooked. And I have to tell you guys, as a kid, I got some cavities, and it was because, and I'm talking as a kid, like 8 to 10 years old, because we drank soda, back in the day, and I really blame it on the soda, for the most part. And since when I was about 12, I think that's the last time I ever had any cavities or anything done, because even at that age, I started to gear away from the soda. and away from the simple sugars for the most part. And because those are the things that are going to give you tooth decay. But even as an adult, I would get tooth sensitivity. And when I started to make my own toothpaste, just using coconut oil, baking soda, peppermint essential oil, tea tree essential oil, sometimes throw clove essential oil in there as well, that sensitivity never comes back anymore. It doesn't come back. And I really think my teeth are way better as far as they feel cleaner, they feel healthier, my gums feel healthier than they did when I was in my 30s. And so I do think that you're better off making your own toothpaste just with those simple ingredients. And you could just basically swish them, like after you're done brushing, just swish it and, through your mouth for a while. And I think it creates a good ecology in your mouth at the same time as protecting your teeth. So don't eat just anything. Obviously when we're starving, you can get desperate, and a Twinkie might look good, to a starving man. But recognize that what you're taking in, it's not just fuel. It's you. It's the future you. What you eat today becomes you later. So if you eat things like Oreos on a regular basis, you're going to get inflammatory issues going on. If you're taking in, GMO wheat and high fructose corn syrup, you're sabotaging your health. You're weakening yourself, making yourself more susceptible to any plague that's on the land in general. So a lot of times we're better off not eating as opposed to taking in something that's only going to weaken our immune system. And controlling your emotions as well. That's key in these times. We got to keep our emotions, we have that develop that Buddhist detachment a little bit so that we don't get pulled in, don't get that flight or fight response, which again is going to stress your immune system out. You need to get into the rest and digest as much as possible. So things like yoga, tai chi, qigong, meditation, things that will calm us, or getting a really good workout in. Just make sure you work out on a regular basis too, because you need to move your body. All those things can boost our immune system.
Absolutely. Super important. Take care of that mind and body.
And I want to thank everybody for your support on Patreon and also over on Ko-Fi, because we wouldn't have survived and been able to keep the channels going if it wasn't for your guys' support. And as always, guys, we love you. Stay prepared out there. God bless and namaste.
Namaste.